This national championship team is 5 games into the 2024 season, but with their first road game coming up, a national championship rematch against Washington on Saturday night. This could be a season on the brink. You've got 7 games left on the schedule, folks, and there is not, maybe against Northwestern, but really there are no cakewalks left for a team that is really struggling to move the ball and, as you see, really struggling to stop anybody in the second half. We're going to talk about that on Michigan Football Overreaction Sunday, but just realized we got about 5 hours left in the month of September, and we're 41 subscribers away from beating last year's subscriber mark. So if you haven't yet, now is the time to subscribe to the Michigan Football Report. We got 2 jam-packed months leading up to hopefully a 4th college football playoff appearance for Michigan. And hell, if you just want to help me out, don't want to subscribe, just subscribe today, unsubscribe tomorrow, so I don't have to walk into Tuesday's staff meeting and say, hey, I'm the guy. Michigan Football Report didn't beat our September 2023 subscriber numbers, so hit that sub button, send a link to a friend, youtube.com/Michigan TV. It is Overreaction Monday, talking all things Michigan, Minnesota, coming up right now. I am your host, James Yoder, for the 4-1, somehow number 10 ranked Michigan football team. You are watching the Michigan Football Report. I got 5 things that I've just kind of, played a cool fall in this game, this kind of collapse of a second half. I wasn't really in the mood to talk about it on Saturday. I had some stuff going on with my son, so I've got 5 overreactions from myself, from the media, from the fans that we're going to talk about here on the show. Number 1 is this team has no room for error. I agree with this overreaction. Everyone's saying it. The opposing fans, the media, Michigan fans. I'm saying to myself, is this team just is not going to blow anybody out, doesn't seem, this entire season. I mean, they had a 20-point win against Fresno in the opener, but since then it's really been, one-score games, right? And even that Fresno game, right, there was a score and then a pick 6 in like the last 6-7 minutes of the game, so that was a one-score game itself. And so Michigan scored 14 points, might have even been 13. They might have missed an extra point there to make it what appeared to be, a 3-score win, 30-10. It was something like 17-10 or 16-10 there with halfway through the fourth quarter. So look at the schedule for this team going forward. You have, folks, 4 ranked teams on the schedule, plus a away game at Washington. You've got Illinois, who is 4-1. You got Oregon, you've got Indiana, and you've got Ohio State. Now, that Illinois game, right there, number 24 in a couple weeks, it's coming off a bye. This is a team that already has 2 wins against ranked teams, right? They beat Kansas, they beat Nebraska. You go on Washington. Michigan's a 3-point underdog. Look at Oregon, you got top 6 team. Ohio State. I don't know about other than that Northwestern game on November 23rd, the week before Ohio State. That's going to probably be a really cold game in the Big House. There are potentially 6 losable games left on this schedule. They're an underdog this week. Oregon, Ohio State, Illinois, Indiana. I mean, this is not a simple thing. Even Michigan State at home is a game you could potentially lose. They look a lot more competent, especially on offense. They stuck with Ohio State, right? They made that game for almost 2 quarters on Saturday. And I don't know what Michigan's going to do to blow anybody out. So every game is going to be 1 or 2 scores. A couple things go wrong like they did against Minnesota, and it could have been really disastrous with that onside kick. Michigan could be looking at 3, 4, maybe even 5, maybe even 6 more losses on this schedule. So you guys saw the 7 games left, right? The 7 games we know on the schedule. I'll repeat them off again. It's Washington. It's Illinois. It's Michigan State. It's Oregon. It's Northwestern, Indiana, and Michigan. Not in that order. In Ohio State, I'm sorry. Not in that order. But give me a record over this last 7 games. I don't even want to make a prediction at this point, but I need you guys to give me the vibes of the audience. This is going to be a pinned comment right below the video. You might get hit with a YouTube ad break. So if they play the ad right now, scroll down. Give me a record prediction. Scroll back up. The ad should be over. Well, thank you for sitting through that ad break if you got hit with one. YouTube likes to hit people right at that spot, so that's why we always put those questions there for you guys. This offense has been awful in the second half, really the entire season, folks. The last 3 weeks, just on both sides of the ball, have been a disaster in the second half. Kind of go back a couple weeks back. You're up 21-3 against Arkansas State. Only score 7 points, give up 15 in the second half. Last week, right? I guess, 9 days ago, against USC, you're up 14-3. You score 13 points in the second half. You need a last-minute kind of miracle touchdown, 4th down after a 63-yard rumble, but you gave up 21 points, right? So you're outscored. And then this week, you're up 21-3. You give up a Hail Mary and a field goal right before half. You only score 6 points, 2 field goals. but you give up 21 points in the fourth quarter against Minnesota, so you're outscored by 15 points again. And it's pretty clear at this point, right? With 2 games in the works for Alex Orji as Michigan's starting quarterback, that this team clearly can't pass the ball worth anything. It might be one of the worst passing teams that a big, I bet this is the worst passing team that's ever been ranked number 10 to go into the month of October in the history of college football. That just might be a claim, right? That might be your overreaction, but I think it's an apt reaction. But this team, even with Davis Warren in there, they're good. Continuing on with Alex Orji this week at the scripted play, right? You probably have 5 to 12 plays, depending on how they think it's going to go, for the first drive, right? So they're going to practice it. They know what they're going to do. We're going to start off with a run to the left. Then we're going to do a reverse. Then we're going to hit coastal 11 on the out. Then we're going to do this. Then we're going to do that, right? Once you get deeper into the game, once things change and you have some success here, you don't have some success there. The other team maybe, is it a 2-score game? Is it a 1-score game? Okay, do we need to push it up tempo? Whatever it is, when you go off script, especially in the second half, when teams can look at you, their defensive staff can make adjustments and say, well, they haven't thrown any passes to wide receivers. They only throw them when they pass. It's always going to a tight end, or it's only going to a running back out of the backfield, and they're running left, running right. Once they make those adjustments, Michigan has absolutely no success on offense, especially with Alex Orji more than anybody. It's worse for him than it was under Davis Warren the first 3 games, but it is very concerning. We'll talk more about that in a second. But if you are on the West Coast or had to travel to the West Coast, I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, and that is Game Time. It's the app that I use to take Jack and myself to the national championship game in Houston and friends to Michigan and Texas game a few weeks back. One of those was awesome. The other one was not awesome, but it's not because of Game Time. It's because of how Michigan played. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Michigan's got Washington this week, then a bye week, then they are back at home, and you can get tickets with them using Game Time. Now, if you're on the West Coast, like I mentioned, or you're heading out there, you want to see a game in Washington, in Seattle, right on the water. I'm looking at the app right now, Jack. I don't know if you want to bring me back on the screen really quick. You got tickets, you're in the door as low as $88, but how about this, right? Corner end zone, row 7, only $144. I'm not sure if that's showing up on screen, but that's a hell of a deal. That's the all-in price. So with Game Time, you get great last-minute ticket deals through their app. You see where your seats are, okay? You are getting seat views, a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. And like I said, all-in pricing. I've got all-in pricing on. That's I'm not getting a surprise with any fees at checkout. $144 each for 2 tickets is what I would pay to sit in the 7th row in the corner end zone for Michigan-Washington this Saturday night. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Yes, that's $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. The link is down in the comments. It's in the description of today's video. Use that code CHATSPORTS, $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So this team goes to the locker room, and the other team's opposing defense. And then this isn't USC or Texas or anything like that. This is, even with Davis Warren early on, this is Fresno State. This is Arkansas State. This is USC, of course, and Minnesota. Minnesota team that didn't have much of a pulse going into this game. They do good early on, and it's either you have a breakaway touchdown, you have a turnover somehow, or it's the first drive. Other than that, Michigan doesn't do anything on offense with Alex Orji. Case in point, against Minnesota, 3 scoring drives, first one of the day. You go 10 plays, 79 yards, a very scripted drive, boom, ends in a touchdown. Kalel Mullings cuts through, skirts up the sideline, touchdown Michigan. But then the second touchdown comes after, I think that was the one after the block punt, and maybe I might be wrong on that. 3 plays, 16 yards, either the block punt or the interception from Jair Hill, whichever one. The other one play, 11 yards. So 3 plays, you get the ball at the 16-yard line, you score a touchdown. You get the ball at the 11-yard line, 1 play, a pass. Alex Orji got the passing touchdown to Tyler Morris. That's a touchdown. But then you go in the second half, you can't score the ball at all. 53-yard field goal on a 13-play, 40-yard drive. Just think about that for a second. You have 7 minutes and 25 seconds time possession. You have to kick a 53-yard field goal. 13 plays, 40 yards. I mean, just it's almost inconceivable. It means you're going for basically on you have a 3rd and 4 almost every time. It would seem just based on the math, right? 13 times 3 yards, that's 39, right? It just kind of doesn't really seem. And I know you all watch the game, you kind of know what we're talking about. So you took up some yards, you got some chunks, but you didn't do anything to even get close to scoring the ball. You had a 53-yard touchdown. But this was the drive, right? I was scared when Minnesota cut it 24-14. I'm like, this team has absolutely no momentum, right? They threw an interception a couple possessions prior, and Minnesota just gone down and scored a touchdown. Now Michigan's get the ball back. I will give them credit, right? 14 plays, 58 yards. Again, 3 yards and 4 yards and 2 yards and 5 yards. So you're not getting many chunk plays, but took up 6 minutes plus time of possession. And by doing so, really, put the ball back in Minnesota's hands. They scored a touchdown, which is kind of what you would fear, but they had to kick the onside kick, and they didn't get it. And there's a lot of overreactions out there. Oh, the refs are cheating. Michigan got lucky, et cetera, et cetera. Well, you may say that the guy wasn't offsides. I don't know what angle. It might be a JT was short kind of thing there for Minnesota. But they also blocked a Michigan player, and they touched the ball before the 10-yard line. So I think no matter what, it was a penalty on Minnesota. They may have just got the penalty wrong. But this team is completely ineffective outside of that opening scripted drive on offense. And then if they get a turnover from the defense, you had a couple, maybe a little success there in the second half, but they just had to get lucky. 3 yards, 2 yards, 3 yards, 5 yards, etc. But the defense stinks too. Let's go to number 3. Michigan's defense stinks in the second half. So you stink in the second half in offense, you stink in the second half in defense, and it's not just this game. You see that there. Michigan giving up 3 points per game. 3 points in every game outside of the Texas game when they gave up whatever. It was like 30. But then you give up 16 points in the second half, and it's mostly happening in the fourth quarter. You give up 21 against Minnesota, 12.5 points you're averaging in those 4 non-Texas games. It's unacceptable. It's insane. I don't know what the hell Wink Martindale is doing, but it's working in the first half. It's kind of like this. Michigan, what we say about Michigan in the second half the last couple of years, Jack? They were like the best second half team we've ever seen. Maybe in 2022 they could have been the best second half team in the history of college football. Just looking at the amount of yards they gave up, the amount of scoring they gave up, both on offense and defense. But this is one of the worst Michigan teams we've seen in the second half since the Brady Hoke era. The 6 times that Minnesota got to third down. And this isn't saying they're 5 or 6 out of third down conversions. I'm saying the 6 times in the second half that they got to third down on offense, they completed and got a first down. Now, that includes 3 fourth down conversions. They were 3 of 3 on fourth down conversions. Once it was for 11 yards, personal foul penalty on Mason Graham. Then there was a 6-yarder they got and a 1-yarder they got inside the 5-yard line, scored the next play. So 6 times they took it to third down. Michigan could only get a stop once. I think it was on the first possession of the second half. You're missing a few players, right? Will Johnson's out of this game. Josiah Stewart's out of this game. Your best 2 players, maybe 2 of your best 4 players, but really the guys who made the plays last week against USC. Josiah Stewart, his best game at Michigan. Will 6, the pick 6. Neither of those guys played. You need them against Washington. I'm hoping they held those players out against Washington because even though this is a Washington team with 2 losses, just went on the road and lost to Rutgers, I don't know if they're going to be able to do it on the road. I haven't seen this team overcome adversity on the road yet this year, even play a road game. So I think you need to be all hands on deck to get this win. Let me know what you guys think of Michigan's new defensive coordinator, Wink Martindale. Some people call him stink. I told last week, Wink don't stink, but I don't know, Winky. Second half, you kind of stink, buddy. Give me a grade, A, B, C, D, or F. I'm going with a solid C at this point. We're going to find out on Saturday night if it's going up to a B or if it may be going down to a D. Michigan is a 3-point underdog. 3-point underdog. I'm glad that they didn't go under that 36-point over-under last week, Jack. That would have been crazy. Michigan went over, 27-24, so 51 points by over 2 scores. But this is another low over-under, 41 points. Washington has not been lighting the scoreboard up by any means. This is a primetime game, 6:30 Eastern on NBC. It's going to start 3:30 Pacific time, where they'll be playing the game. Be dark probably in the third quarter, late third, early fourth quarter. Washington got 2 wins to start the year with Jed Fish. Right now, they've got Will Rogers, who's had a lot of success. He started a ton of games, 5th-year senior, spent 4 years at Mississippi State. 35-3 win, 39 win, and then they lost to Washington State. I thought it was an inexcusable loss. Went on the road, home against Northwestern, 24-5, and then just went on the road. I think a lot of people watched this game. That was Friday night, I believe. It was Friday night. Same time the Miami, Virginia Tech Hail Mary game. This was in the fourth quarter, so I was switching back and forth. They lost 21-18 on the road against Rutgers. All right, guys, one more time. I'll continue on with our overreaction, talk a little more about Washington. Subscribe to the channel. We've got about 5 hours left, 4.5 hours left in this month. I got 41 subscribers. It's a big ass, so send that link to your friends if you enjoy the Michigan Football Report. This is a 2-3 team without Kalel Mullings. Really quick, before we go to the next graphic check, I want to go back and just give people little thoughts. I had pulled up some graphics, some thoughts here on Washington. Go back to the Washington schedule just for me for a second because I had something to say. I want to give people some insight on Will Rogers, right? This is the quarterback. He was throwing 400 yards, 350 yards, 400 yards all the time in 2021, 2022. Had kind of a down year in 2023, but so far this year in the opener against Weber State, 20-26 for 250. All right, next game against Eastern Michigan, 21-26 for 261. But then when they start losing games, tough games, 23-31, 314, right? Go one more game against Northwestern, 20-28 for 223. But how about against Rutgers this past week, 25-36, 306, and 2 touchdowns. If you go back to his time at Mississippi State, he would throw for 50 and 60 games regularly. You want out of this game, you want him to throw 40-plus times because that's what this offense likes to do with him. 40-plus times, but only for like 230, 220 yards like they did against Miller Moss and USC. So the more he throws, the better for this Michigan football team. All right, Jack, thanks for going back to that. Just want to get my thought out on Will Rogers. This is a 2-3 team without Kalel Mullings, right? The last 3 weeks, he has really turned it on, and Michigan would have, should have, could have lost the last 2 games to follow 2-3, if not for the touchdowns and the yards turned out by Kalel Mullings, 24 for 111, 17 for 159 against USC, and 15 for 153 against Arkansas State. He's got 6 touchdowns in these last 3 games, and clearly is Michigan's starting running back for this team. He saved the season. He's the MVP of the team. It reminds me a lot of 2021, right? He's come on even a little earlier than Hassan Haskins did with putting up 6 touchdowns, 400-plus yards in these last 3 games. And I think he's obviously cemented. He started the game as a starting running back now. Didn't do anything to disprove it with his 2 touchdowns over 100 yards for 3 straight games. What is Donovan Edwards' role in this offense? Didn't do really anything, right? And this is 5 games into the year, right? You've got a couple touchdowns. You got the big touchdown run against USC. But what is Donovan Edwards' role? Why? I think I saw 2 or 3 times for sure that you had Edwards and Mullings on the field at the same time. One time it was like 3rd and 7. He'd do like an end around to Edwards. It just seemed like such lackluster play calling. Where is the creative play calling that we saw from Sherrone Moore against Alabama, against Ohio State for the last couple of years? Where is that play calling against Penn State in 2022? Not necessarily against 2023. We need that play calling. We understand there is not the passing game there, but there's just no creativity on offense from this team. And the number 5 overreaction I'm seeing, I'm not saying this is mine, but I have seen this more in my mentions, in our YouTube comments, on Twitter, on Facebook, on my Instagram account. Start Jadyn Davis, the 6-star by JY365. I think some others end up being a 4-star top 150 player. Fans calling for the true freshman to start in this for this team. And we just keep hearing from other media members or from people on social media, oh, no, his parents said the reason he chose Michigan is because, okay, it's the national championship pedigree, this and that. And Michigan was going to give him a chance to, build up his body and learn and not play and get that red shirt this year. But if it's red shirt no matter what for him, right? If no matter how bad the Michigan quarterback situation is, if he is not going to play, I don't really know what that does for the future, right? And I wish Michigan could hold a lead, right? Imagine if they'd scored a touchdown early in the third quarter against Minnesota, go up 28-3, and you get a stop here. You don't throw the interception. You don't kind of change momentum. Maybe you just get that extra point, kind of going to that field goal, going to the end of the third quarter. It's 31-3. You're up 4 touchdowns. Then you probably feel confident, right? We got all these games ahead of us, 7 games, 4 of them against ranked teams, plus you got Michigan State, plus you got Washington. Maybe this is a chance to give us some Jadyn Davis time. Give him 4, 5, 6 passes in the fourth quarter. But they didn't. So Michigan can't hold on to a lead, so you can't get these freshmen, especially Jadyn Davis, any game reps. But if you're not going to give him any snaps this entire year, right? 7 games left plus the postseason, we get that. If he still wants to redshirt, he can play 4 games. If he doesn't see the field at all this year, unless something drastically changes from the quarterback position, from the guys you have, what does the future hold at quarterback, right? What does his future hold at Michigan? Because this is as bad as we've ever seen it. Name me a quarterback at Michigan that ended up being a starter and say, hey, could he have started this year if he was a true freshman? If you absolutely, had the same quarterback situation? Of course, right? I can't even think of a single one. Even Cade McNamara should have been the starting quarterback on this team as a true freshman way back in 2019, I guess would have been his true freshman year. And so if they don't play him at all this year, I think you can just basically, in my opinion, just write him off as being an impact player. If he's that far away from being able to play college football as a true freshman, we're looking at Ohio State, right? They may have one of the top 3 or 4 receivers in all of college football, Jeremiah Smith, same age Jadyn Davis. They've got a player, Ryan Williams, who basically won the game against Georgia, 7 catches, 166 yards, and one of the most scintillating, sensational touchdowns I've ever seen in college football. The kid doesn't turn how old, Jack? He's 17, doesn't turn 18 until February 9th, right? He skipped his senior year of high school. That's insane. So if these guys can make it, you're telling me Jadyn Davis can't complete a pass past 5 yards? Because Alex Orji certainly can. I'm interested to see what becomes of him, whether they just say, hey, Davis' parents, we know we said we're going to redshirt him, but we didn't realize we have a quarterback situation that cannot move the ball. We've got to win some ball games. Michigan might be able to lose 2 games and still make the college football playoff, but they can't get blown out in those games. And I think we might be have a recipe for that if something doesn't change at the quarterback position. Roll through them one more time. You can just put them all up on the screen if you want to check. These, sorry about that. Starting quarterback after the bye. So Michigan's got Washington this week, and then they've got a bye next week, right? After that, obviously Alex Orji is going to start. Win, lose, or draw, but just say we kind of get same type of results from Michigan's offense, where Orji is 7 of 14 for 71 yards and a touchdown or something like that. Who is the starting quarterback after the bye? Jadyn Davis, give me a JD. Alex Orji, AO. Jack Tuttle, hearing he's still not healthy, but he's out there. He's throwing the ball. He's warming up. If you think it should be Tuttle or Davis Warren, give me a TD down in the comments. Going over our overreaction Monday, we got no room for error in this team. They could lose 6 more games if they don't change things up and figure out how to move the ball and even stop people in the second half, because this offense is awful in the second half outside the scripted plays. If they don't get turnovers, they cannot move the ball. The defense stinks too, right? Giving up 12.5 points per game in the fourth quarter in the 4 games that not are against Texas Longhorns. Kalel Mullings is the star of this team, and they would be 2-3 without him. They would have lost to USC. They would have lost to Minnesota. They'd be on a 3-game losing streak without Kalel Mullings. And people are saying, start Jadyn Davis. I'm not saying it yet, but I do want to see him get some snaps, because if not, I don't think there's much of a future for him if he can't even get on the field in front of the worst quarterback situation in maybe not the history of Michigan football, but certainly in the last 10 years. We'll see you guys later on. Subscribe to the channel. Almost the end of September. So we'll see you then. Go Blue.